Welcome back, everyone. We're again on Adobe Live at D&AD, and we've had a small change in schedule, but we have Jo now, so we get to see you even sooner, which is great. If you're tuning in, we're on behance.net/live, and we're also live on YouTube, so you can ask your questions and chat to Jo here. Welcome.
Hi.
How are you?
I love being the filler content. Well, I'm not. I'm just getting you. I'm here a little bit earlier than I was. I was meant to be next, but yeah. Kwame, I think, is still judging because we've got live judging going on the other side of this wall. So I don't want him to stop what he's doing. So
we
I
could
pull the boss
grab
cards.
him from the stage or something like that. A little dramatic, but thank you for joining early. And I know you're waiting for your lunch, so we'll try and make this quick.
You guys are more important, and thanks for having me.
Thank you. So Jo, you're D&AD's first female CEO, new female CEO. How has that been? Introduce yourself to everyone.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Yeah, so hi, I'm Jo Jackson. I'm the relatively new CEO of D&AD. I've been in the role for 6 months. I'm the first official female CEO. D&AD is actually 60 years old, so 1962 that it was created by predominantly very male industry led, which obviously looks very different today, but there's a lot of changes that we still need to make within the industry. We just had some amazing talks here at Truman Brewery discussing some of those topics.
And you haven't been at the festival for a while, right? It's been a couple of years as well with the pandemic, so you're back now. It's super vibrant, the community's here. What's the kind of mission and values more generally of D&AD? I think you just touched on it a little bit, but can you tell us a bit more about what D&AD does?
Yeah, sure. So for those that aren't kind of fully familiar of D&AD, that are kind of new to the industry, D&AD is an educational charity at the core of it, but what we're most known for is our awards. It's kind of like the Oscars of the creative advertising design industry. So like I said, at the moment we've got 300 judges internationally in this building judging the world's best creative work, 42 different categories that we'll be announcing in the next kind of 2 weeks who will win the kind of ultimate yellow pencil, or if you're really lucky, a black pencil. But as a company, what we're really here for is to stimulate, celebrate and enable creative talent and creative excellence. So for me, the reason why I joined the company was really about the future of the creative industry. Obviously it's been around for a long time and that whole kind of like admin kind of era. But I think we can't really celebrate creative excellence unless it's fully representative and fully respectful of the community and the environment around us.
Yeah. And so you mentioned you've been here for 6 months and you talked a bit about D&AD's values and how you got here, the creative scene as well. What's your own background and how did you get here?
This is like, how long I've been doing it for 20 years, right? So don't want to go too far down. But actually, classically, I'm trained as a graphic designer from Central St Martin's. So my first exposure to D&AD was doing one of our programs that's still running. It's 40 years old. So I was exposed about 20 years ago at Central St Martin's. I was a graphic designer. And did one of these new blood briefs. So I was like, what is this D&AD? And then discovered it. We used to have this incredible annual, which is literally the Bible of creative work around the world every year, and I just use a page through it, looking for inspiration for my projects. Graphic designer by trade, went into fashion, marketing, branding, worked with an agency, Protein Studios, that whole birth of millennial marketing, influencer marketing at the time when no one knew what it was, no one wants to talk about it anymore. Then went in-house, so been building creative agencies in-house in Diesel internationally, and then also Chief Creative Officer at Made.com. And then I quit the industry entirely during COVID and went into a totally different side hustle with hospitality. But I got reeled back in. This opportunity to work with D&AD is absolutely just incredible. It's something I just could not pass up to help shape a better industry, really.
And you have this mission around also like bridging the gap between education and the creative industry. You mentioned Central St. Martin's, for example. What is D&AD doing, for example, with Shift in terms of like helping that young generation getting into their career and into the industry?
So I guess with New Blood, that's been around for 40 years and it's very much an institution within the further education system within universities. But we recognise and appreciate that not everybody can or wants to go through further education, to go into universities. Can be seen as quite elitist. Also, cultural challenges in terms of the perception of what it means to be working in the creative industry as well. So all of these factors, we created Shift about 7 years ago. It's running in London, New York, Berlin, Hamburg, Sydney, and shortcoming into Sao Paulo as well. So what that is essentially is a free, fully funded night school that runs about 5 to 6 months. It's specifically for underrepresented young creative talents to help get them into the creative industry, to give them an insight into the creative industry, and to get exposure, network. They get set live briefs by amazing brands from our partners, such as Adidas or Diageo. It's funded currently by Google. So we've got amazing access through that, but we want to do more, and we urge kind of everyone who's seen it or heard about it to kind of get in touch. So we get about 74% employment rate out of it.
That's
so
amazing.
For all the people who go through shift, 74% of them go into the creative industry, which is actually a higher ranking than the further education. So it actually has got something to be said. I mean, obviously, you know, I went through further education, but there's something to be said for alternative ways of learning, I think.
And just to get a sense of the size of the program, I was talking to Sammy from D&AD like not long ago, just earlier this morning, and he was saying that there's about over 200 people that participated into Shift and like went on and then obviously covered the program and then also went into a career, which is amazing to just feedback on.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
What does the curriculum actually cover? I think we talked a little bit with Leila, who's also very passionate about it. What can people actually expect if they do apply for it and try to be part of Shift?
Yeah. So I've known Leila for a while, and she was absolutely perfect to bring us in and partner on this. Yeah. So I'm so happy to have her on board as part of like this kind of new wave of a few new people kind of coming on board with us. So the program, it's a really simple online application. The qualification is that you need to not have a degree. We don't want you to have a degree. And then it's a kind of a hybrid model, which again we learned through COVID on how to do this, and we appreciate that not everybody can come to those key cities around the world. And we set mainly live briefs through all of these brands who help us fund it, because we are a charity, we need to fund it somehow. So the teams kind of are a bit multidisciplinary. They work within small groups to be set a live brief by that client. So they all kind of get the opportunity to go into an agency environment or into a brand to see those spaces as well, because not a lot of young creators have had the opportunity to go in and see what Google headquarters look like, or a creative agency, or go and see Mother around the corner, which is, you know, we take that for granted, but actually, you know, if you're not in the industry, you know, they are pretty like solid glass doors, but still solid ones. So there's a lot of live briefs that get set, and then we do things like a brief in a day, which is like a really high energy, does what it says in the tin, is a brief in the day. And they kind of like, there's ups and downs. We've heard that there have been some tears and some joy things, but that's all part of the process, right? And what it means is that there's passion in there, and there's learning. And there's some shifters here today. I don't know if you're speaking to some later.
Definitely.
It's just awesome when you bump into someone and they're like, I'm working at Design Bridge now. Or, I'm one of the guys who graduated from New York 2 months ago. He's just landed a job as a copywriter at Apple. Like, that's
pretty
amazing.
good. To start with.
It's so good. So I want to do more things with Shift. As a charity, we're challenged in terms of our scope and our scale that we can do. But we want to try and do more of these projects around the world. So any one cohort is 20 people. So it's still quite difficult to get into. But we are in fact actually launching an online version of it called Shift Campus, which is going to launch in July. And that's going to be accessible for anyone in the world to jump in. So it's not as intensive, but it's at least it's an insight into it, and also an access into that alum network of shifters.
Totally, and I think the pandemic has changed a lot in terms of like all of us being able to access content and also access these resources online, which is a great shift, I think, just for D&AD itself.
Yeah, and it's really important that we do that, particularly as D&AD and representing, you know, what we really want to be a democratic, very accessible institution such as we are. So I think Shift Campus is a really exciting new launch we're going to have.
Definitely. I also read online that you wanted to be in the scene for like at a young age, and you were always really like into this creative industry. What have you learned in the last kind of years from May.com to now joining for the last 6 months? What's the key thing that keeps you passionate about this industry and the future of D&AD? There's a lot to cover.
Why do you have to throw me a really difficult question like that? Oh my God, I've been on stage all morning. Okay, let me see if I can unpack that. What have I learned? I've been in the industry 20 years now, which is showing my age. I actually got my reunion for St Martin's, a 20-year reunion.
Do you go there?
Oh my God, I feel old now. So I'm going to go back to do that. It's going to be amazing to see people. But I've learned so much. I think one of the main things was, and St Martin's was amazing, and it's still the problem today, is that even if you go through further education, you're never really fully prepared to go into the industry.
Yep.
And I think programs like Shift or institutions like that, and then of course we're not the only ones, there's so many institutions out there that kind of helps your further professional development of just soft skills of learning how to speak to your peers. Like, there's all these young creators are coming out into the industry and they've spent 3 years being locked up, and there's all of these small nuances of just knowing how to talk to people, right? How to pitch in person, all the kind of like water cooler moments, how to talk to your superiors, and just to be, you know, be physically present in an environment and work with your people around you. You know, we actually haven't had that for a few years.
Totally.
So, you know, I think there's a lot of kind of small learnings of like that, but also just that ideas can kind of come from anywhere in terms of, you know, like forgetting about the hierarchy. Some great ideas come from the juniors or the apprentices, right? And sometimes you need to filter and craft it, but you can get inspiration from anywhere. And I think having an open, very kind of single level access, particularly in the creative teams, is super important.
Love that, great answer, and I'll probably let you off now. I really appreciate that you joined us. We'll share the links in the chat for Shift again, and we'll be back with Kwame. Hopefully we can catch him. I know he was busy in the last hour, so we'll try and get him. Thank you so much for joining and for sharing all your thoughts and advice.
Okay.
See you in a bit, everyone.